What would you do if, just days before your engagement party, you discovered your fiancé was having an affair? Would you stay silent and go through with the celebration? Or would you expose the truth in front of everyone who believed in your love story? That was the question tearing me apart as I prepared for what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. The decorations were perfect, the guest list full, and everyone saw us as the perfect couple. To them, it was a fairy tale. To me, it had become a carefully constructed lie. A week before the party, I caught a glimpse of something I couldn't ignore. A message filled with hearts, sent to someone I never expected. My chest tightened, my mind screamed for answers, but I forced myself to smile, to act normal, to keep the secret burning inside me. I could have confronted him then. I could have canceled the entire event. But instead, I chose something far more dangerous. I chose to wait, to plan, to expose him not in private whispers, but in front of everyone he had fooled. If you love raw confessions and shocking reveals, subscribe now. You won't want to miss how this night unfolded. When I first met him, he felt like a dream. He had that disarming smile, the kind that made you forget to breathe, and he always knew exactly what to say. On our third date, he surprised me with my favorite coffee order, something I hadn't even told him. That small gesture made me believe he truly saw me. For months, I let myself believe I'd found the kind of love people write novels about. We laughed until our stomachs hurt, shared long drives with music blasting, and made innocent. Maybe I was overthinking. But deep down, my instincts screamed otherwise. The more I tried to dismiss the feeling, the louder it grew. Something was wrong, and I knew I couldn't ignore it forever. The first undeniable red flag came during a friend's birthday dinner. We were out on the patio, fairy lights strung above us, laughter and music filling the night. I excused myself for a moment, and when I returned, I froze in the doorway. There he was, leaning in too close to her, my so-called best friend. Their shoulders brushed, their heads tilted toward each other. And for a split second, I caught a look in his eyes I had never seen directed at me. It was soft, intimate, something you don't share with anyone but the person you love. When he noticed me standing there, his face flickered with something. Guilt, maybe fear, before he quickly covered it with a grin. He waved me over, acting as if nothing had happened, and I played along. I laughed when everyone laughed, smiled when I was supposed to, but inside, my chest felt hollow. I didn't confront him that night. I told myself it was just in my head, that I was being insecure. But a quiet voice inside whispered, "No, you saw the truth. You just don't want to admit it." A few days later, my phone buzzed with a message from a mutual friend. Her words were hesitant, almost apologetic, as if she knew she was about to shatter me. Night on the patio. I remembered the message with the heart emoji. I remembered the voice of my friend, so careful, so certain. And suddenly, the fog lifted. He wasn't protecting me, he was protecting himself. His calmness wasn't reassurance, it was manipulation. That was the moment I realized he wasn't just lying. He was making me doubt my own reality. I decided I couldn't rely on intuition alone. I needed proof. My heart was pounding as I opened his laptop one night while he was in the shower. My hands trembled, half from fear of what I might find, and half from fear of being caught. At first, everything looked ordinary. Work emails, random documents. But then, buried inside a folder innocently labeled projects, I found a string of chats. My breath caught as I scrolled. The messages weren't professional. They were intimate, playful, the kind of words reserved for lovers, not colleagues. And there, right in front of me, were the exact phrases that had haunted me in whispers and suspicions for weeks. He hadn't just crossed a line. He had erased it completely. The lies, the denial, the manipulation, they all collapsed into undeniable truth. My chest tightened, and tears blurred the screen. I wanted to scream, but instead I sat frozen, staring at the words that shattered everything I thought I knew about us. There was no more guessing, no more doubting myself. The betrayal was carved into digital stone, undeniable and cruel. I slammed the laptop shut, my pulse racing so hard it echoed in my ears. My entire body shook with a cocktail of rage and devastation. For a few moments, I just sat there, clutching the table like it was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. I replayed every lie. The happiest night of my life. For me, it was the night I would finally set myself free. Every toast, every laugh, every cheer only tightened the knot in my stomach. The time was approaching, and with it, the weight of what I was about to unleash. This wasn't just an engagement party anymore. It was the scene of his undoing. The moment arrived when everyone's attention turned toward us. Glasses were lifted, and the MC invited me to say a few words about our love story. My heart pounded so loud I thought the microphone might catch it. I stood there, smiling, my voice steady, but my hands trembling just slightly. As I began, I spoke about how we met, how I believed in him, how I thought he was my forever. Every word felt like a blade, cutting into the lie we'd built together. The crowd listened intently, their faces soft with admiration. He stood beside me, nodding along, the picture of devotion. It almost made me laugh. He truly thought he had fooled everyone. But as I looked around at the expectant eyes of our families and friends, I felt a surge of strength. I wasn't just telling a story anymore. I was leading them to the truth, one sentence at a time. The silence that followed was heavy, and everyone leaned in, waiting for what I would say next. I paused deliberately, letting the room hang on my words. Then, with a calmness that surprised even me, I shifted the tone. I always believed love was built on racing, but there was no going back now. I wanted everyone to know the truth, to see him for who he really was. And then I said it, the words that shattered what little illusion was left. He's been having an affair with my cousin. Gasps turned into chaos. The reaction was instant and explosive. People stood up, mouths open, whispering to one another in disbelief. My aunt clutched her daughter's arm, the very cousin who couldn't meet my eyes. She sat, frozen, pale, and guilty, her glass trembling in her hand. My fiancé stammered, "That's not true. She's lying. She's twisting everything." His voice cracked, and for once, his smooth charm failed him. But the crowd wasn't convinced. All eyes darted between me, him, and my cousin, who looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. I pulled out my phone, my hand steady this time, and tapped the screen. Within seconds, the sound of their private conversations filled the room. His voice, her voice, their laughter, their betrayal. Gasps turned into sharp cries. One of my friends muttered, "Oh my God," loud enough for everyone to hear. There it was. Proof. No denial could erase it now. I looked at him, at her, and then at the guests. "This is the man you've been celebrating tonight. And this is the woman I called family." The room erupted in chaos. The party unraveled in seconds. Guests shouted over one another, some demanding answers, others shaking their heads in disbelief. My cousin bolted up from her chair, tears streaming, mumbling excuses that no one cared to hear. My fiancé reached for my arm, his face twisted with sweat on his forehead and trembling hands. One of my closest friends stood up and said aloud, "You don't deserve her." The crowd murmured in agreement, fueling the fire of his downfall. I could see the realization dawn on his face. There was no way out. No lie could undo what had been revealed. He wasn't the man everyone admired anymore. He was the villain in my story. And now, everyone knew it. And I made sure he felt every ounce of that shame. The once celebratory atmosphere had turned into a courtroom, and every guest was now a witness to his disgrace. He stood, frozen, unable to defend himself, while whispers of betrayal and disgust circled the room. I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. I spent months planning this day, dreaming of a future with you. But instead of honoring me, you chose to humiliate me. And tonight, I'm giving that humiliation back to you. In front of everyone you thought you could fool. My cousin had slipped out by now, leaving him alone to face the wreckage. He darted glances at the door, as if running away would erase the shame. But there was no escape. Guests I barely knew came up to me, offering words of support, while others confronted him directly. How could you do this? What's wrong with you? His silence was the only answer. And in that silence, I realized something powerful. I didn't just expose his betrayal. I reclaimed my dignity. This was no longer his night. It was mine. As the chaos swirled around us, I felt strangely calm, almost detached. Like I was watching someone else's life play out. For the first, like a shadow of himself, small and pitiful. And as I looked at him, I didn't feel anger anymore. I felt something far more powerful. Relief. Relief that the truth was out. Relief that I had escaped a lifetime of lies. I didn't just end an engagement. I ended a cycle of betrayal before it had the chance to define my future. When the party finally wound down, I slipped outside into the cool night air. The muffled sounds of chatter and disbelief still drifted from the hall. But out here, under the stars, everything felt quieter, lighter. I took a deep breath, letting the night air wash over me, and for the first time in a long while, I felt free of the weight I had been carrying. My closest friends followed me out, wrapping me in hugs, reminding me that I wasn't alone. "You were so brave," one whispered, tears in her eyes. Another said, "You deserve so much better." Their words stitched together the parts of me that betrayal had torn apart. Inside, I knew he was still there, crumbling under the weight of his own lies. But that wasn't my burden anymore. He had lost me, and he had lost the respect of everyone who mattered. And as painful as it had been, I realized this ending was also my beginning. As I stood outside that hall, I realized the engagement party hadn't ended in disaster. It had ended in freedom. I walked in as someone's fiancé, but I walked out as someone who chose herself over lies, betrayal, and humiliation. The whispers, the gasps, the chaos, they didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I had found the courage to speak the truth, no matter how painful it was. And in doing so, I exposed more than just his affair. I exposed his true character. He had lost me, and with me the future he pretended to build. But I had gained something even more valuable: my dignity, my strength, and the knowledge that I would never again settle for anything less than honesty and respect. If you've ever felt betrayed, remember this: your voice has power, and your truth can set you free. And if you want to hear more stories like this, stories of betrayal, revenge, and resilience, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means the world to me.